Hello, everybody. And this time we have Dan B. Fierce kicking us off for the HWA Halloween special on Exercise Your Rights. A little bit about Dan. Dan is also a comedian. He loves humor and horror alike and many things in between. He has 20 years of experience writing stand up and sketch comedy and over 10 years of competitive creative writing in online forums. Has also had some opinion pieces published in Casey Lifestyles magazine and several short stories published in various anthologies, as well as two solo releases. He resides in the Kansas City, Missouri area with his longtime partner and husband, and he's a personal friend of mine, and I am a fan of Dan B. Fierce. I cannot say enough good things about him. The book that I read about from you is Roadkill King, and now you have another one.
Yep, I just released Father Figure out on there we go. Looks a little less mirrored. I released it on the 18th, which was my father's birthday.
Oh, beautiful.
So
That's fabulous.
I wrote this and dedicated it to him.
That's good. Now, as a horror author, what kind of dedication are you doing?
Well, it was just a blanket dedication, and I even make clear in the preface or the preface, however you prefer to pronounce it, make it clear that the horror is fiction. My dad was not a horrible man. He was a good role model, a good provider, and I just did it to dedicate to him.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. Note to any of my kids that might be watching, if you want to write a horror novel about me, I would love it. You can make up all the things. It would be a great tribute. I think that's fabulous that you did that.
Thank you.
So I would like to hear you read a little bit about it, but first we're going to talk about Halloween because we are celebrating Halloween. As horror authors, I'm going to say this is probably an important day for both of us and all horror authors and fans alike. What do you think? Is it a significant day for you? I don't want to assume that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I spent a good many of my younger years working at haunted houses, and I met some of my best friends there. Made some of the greatest memories. Two of my best friends, Dean and John, they've stuck with me through thick and thin, and we've been friends for, I think it's been over 30 years now.
Oh, that's awesome. I kind of think that horror is a uniting kind of genre. I feel like our community tends to be one of the closer communities. It could be because we're all hiding in a closet in fear, or because we don't know what's out there, or it's a very non-judgmental and open genre, I feel like.
We all get to flaunt our weird and nobody judges us for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything kind of goes, so which is nice. We need a little, I think we need a little bit more horror in the world, a little more horror love. What are some of the things that you like about Halloween? Like, why is Halloween a special, other than the obvious?
I don't know. I've just always really liked the creepy and the spooky, the mysterious and ooky. I hope we don't get in trouble for that.
We're referencing just whatever.
But no, I've always liked it, and like I said, with my background at the haunted houses, it just, this time of year always brings back great memories, and of course the weather, it starts cooling down some, the leaves change. I got to admit it's not my favorite season, but because I don't like the precursor that it leads to, winter.
Well, especially in Kansas City, where winter is actually pretty horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a horror story all of itself, especially if you got to drive in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a question about
Okay.
Halloween. Do you ever dress up? Do you ever dress up, not necessarily for Halloween, but in costume?
I don't do it as often as I used to, but as kind of a throwback to my younger days when I was doing comedy and stuff like that, I got asked to do a drag show, and I just got through doing that yesterday, as a matter of fact, and invented a new persona
Which
by
I
the name of
love,
Jacqueline Hyde.
which is so amazing. That's Jacqueline, as in like the name Jacqueline Hyde, which I think is like such a brilliant name. I kind of feel like you should keep Jacqueline around.
I've been kicking around some ideas for her in my stories. I
Mm-hmm.
think she may become a recurring character for good or
Because you could actually do readings as Jacqueline then.
I could
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness, I just happened to accidentally have a clip here of
accidentally.
you as Jacqueline. Oh, let me go to the right Facebook here. I'm going to expand this out. Yeah, do you mind if we play this clip real quick?
No, I don't mind.
I love this. And also, this is the first time I'm seeing this because I just found out about this so right before the show. So I didn't have time to watch this. I'm very excited to meet Jacqueline Hyde.
Just so we don't get in any kind of trouble. Just so we don't get in any kind of trouble. We do not own the rights to this music.
Oh, yes.
That's why I
Yes.
couldn't do
So
a
noted.
Facebook Live of it.
Yeah. All right. Noted.
Such a boy in a dress.
All right, I'm going to pause that there. That is amazing. You did such a good job with that. I love Jacqueline. I petition that Jacqueline stays forever.
Well, Brian may fight you on that because he certainly fought me on the makeup.
Did he? Why? It looks so good. And you have it down, that
I'm
whole
not the
thing.
best. I'm not the best canvas. I guess I move around too much.
Oh, true. Because he is a makeup artist, so that does
Yes,
make
he's
sense.
he's the
Yeah,
one that did the makeup.
that's funny. No, that is brilliant. I applaud Jacqueline Hyde. That is probably going to be the best thing that I have seen lately for as far as we'll say costumes. So,
Well, thank
but
you.
yeah, you had the whole personal down and everything. That was beautiful.
Well, I appreciate that.
You here on Exercise Your Rights, everybody. Well, I guess not here, but internationally, this is the international debut of Jacqueline Hyde, and they really hope we see more of her.
Well, she might come back sooner
Yeah,
or later. I
awesome.
gotta say I'm not a big fan of the heels though.
Yeah, I'm just going to say heels are not great. They don't need. They're not a sign of sexy anymore. I'm just going to say that we don't need them. Oh,
Well, I just need to find some flats in my size.
oh, that is true. That is true. That's the trick. So, do you would you read some of Father Figure for us, which is your new release?
Sure, I can
And
read. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, okay, I was going to say, and that link is in the description below. If you want to go catch Father Figure as you're listening to Dan B. Fierce, that link is below, along with his website and everything else.
Okay, thank you. I'll read the story Piercings, which is the second to last story in the book.
All right, and give us a little premise about what father figure, like a little bit of an overview. And I'm going to give you the whole screen. You're going to be up here on your own. Well, I'm still here, but you get the whole spotlight.
All right. A father figure is a collection of short stories and flash fiction. So it's not very thick, as you can see, but um, there's about 8 stories in here, I think 8 or 9, and they're all fairly short reads. So if you got to take something into the toilet with you to read while you're doing business, then this is probably a good one to have. Um, the overall premise was all short stories centered around fathers. So, and it was dedicated to my dad, as I said earlier. So I'm going to read the short story Piercings. When I was a kid, my father showed me how to whittle a point on a stick. Little did I know it was a survival skill that I'd use. I suppose most people wouldn't think that what I do to myself is a form of survival, but it is. He also advised me that if I were ever to come home with a piercing, he'd rip it out of me. Not in my house. That was his mantra about body modifications of any kind. Out of respect or fear, I kept my word that I wouldn't do things like that until I was grown. When I finally left home, they became a symbol of my identity. It was a middle finger to the near puritanical strictness I had grown up with. I digress. You might wonder why this is survival in my mind. It's my way of cutting. I suppose my mental anxiety given a physical presentation. Looking down at my body, I glossed over the dried or dripping blood. The pain caused by the insertion of the sharpened sticks into various parts of my body were now numbed by time. The focal points of the wooden intruders turned red, angry, and swollen. I had piercings long before this, done by experts. I also have tattoos, the pictographs on my skin now distorted by the inserts beneath them. They say tattoos and piercings can be addictive. I should have listened. It started smaller with items like toothpicks and bamboo kebab skewers. The pain was exquisite. The movement of my clothes reminded me of their presence with each step of my feet or sway of my arms. Eventually, it wasn't enough. The agony would subside. Time to find another spot to drill a spike into. They'd always had to be wood. Metal didn't do it. I don't know if it was the sharpness of the tips of the needles and gauges, or if it was the unnatural feel of the material. Only plant-based sticks felt right. My brain couldn't identify with the smoothness and flawlessness of anything metallic. Only the coarseness of slivers entering my body felt correct. The pain from the objects pricking through me was the only thing that silenced the voices in my head. Keeping a proper level of agony prevented the thoughts rattling between my ears from telling me to hurt people I love or even strangers. I wouldn't feel compelled to stab the guy in the store carrying on a loud, one-sided conversation in the aisles. I wouldn't suffer from the urge to stuff a crying infant back into its mother's body. Now I've run out of options. Nothing is working. The swish of clothes no longer quieted my mind like white noise against its heathen desires. No, it wasn't about my survival. It was about the survival of others. I volunteered at the 20-story war memorial several years ago. I was a security guard there. Not that the place needed it. A few rambunctious teens, emotional elders weeping at a dead relative's nameplate, the occasional heat stroke victim, or other medical emergency. Nothing too exciting or strenuous, but it gave me access to parts that the public didn't have, the part that I needed. Below me is the dead tree that I had chopped down, the fine point of its trunk jutting from the ground. Its allure called to me, one final piercing. A shiver danced over my body as I studied the trunk from this high angle. I fibbed to the curator of the museum. I had plans to make it into something artistic. It was only a partial lie, playing the long game leading to this very moment. The wind caressed my naked body. The other patrons were long gone. It was peaceful up here, even with the cooing of the pigeons. Damn shit demons. Studying myself, I couldn't stop the slight chuckle that escaped me. I looked like I got into a fight at a kebab convention. I resembled a porcupine, or one of those leather-clad things from that horror movie that everyone loves so much. Looking over the ledge, the ground seemed so far away. The world swam for a few seconds as I stared down from the dizzying height. I climbed the wall, stepping over the chain-link fence. The razor wire curling around the top graced my skin with fresh cuts. All the fencing was installed to prevent people like me from doing this very thing. Still, it's not enough to prevent my mission. It won't matter if I got the math wrong or didn't calculate for the wind. Another giggle escapes me as I recall something I overheard my father say once. We were watching a Charles Bronson movie or Clint Eastwood movie. They were his favorite actors. It's not the fall that killed him, my dad would muse after a bad guy plummeted from his perch, a sly smirk on the corner of his mouth. It's the sudden stop. Guess we'll find out, old man. I looked behind me as I positioned myself. If I live, the pain will be brutal enough to shut out the voices for a good long time. If I miss, even the rain-softened ground won't be forgiving enough, and I'll be unable to move on my own for the rest of my life. At least no one else will get hurt. Taking a deep breath, I relaxed and let go. Time froze, tendering me weightless, blissful, before gravity caressed me. The rush silenced my crowded thoughts for a few lovely, heavenly seconds. Just one final piercing.
Sorry, the dog started barking while you were reading. That was fantastic. As someone who loved Roadkill King, I really love. Yeah, you've grown a lot as a writer. That was really fantastic, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what kind of inspired that story, that section of it?
Honestly, the way Father Figure started off was I took a 2-sentence prompt that I came up with in my head, which was the first 2 sentences of this story, and I wrote a different story each day for 7 days.
Oh, based on the same prompt?
Yeah, and I took it a different
Fantastic.
direction with each one. Some of the stories are in here, but I took the first 2 sentences out so that they all didn't sound repetitive.
Yeah, I kind of like that though. That's very cool. Like even if you left the sentences in, that's a really neat idea.
I thought about leaving the sentences in, but people that were in my critique group and stuff like that kind of didn't like the fact that they all started the same. So
Yeah, still, that's a really good. I guess like a story behind the story to say how it came about. I really love that idea. So, well, what else have you got coming up? Because I know Dan B. Fierce does not sit around and wait for anything. What else have you got coming up? I happen to know you have a poetry collection coming up with about the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
At some point next year.
At some point, if any of us ever get off our tuchuses and write it.
Yeah, I think I have 2 poems written for that. And but yeah, we're going to do that next year. We're going to finish that collection.
Yeah. I do have a book, a story in an anthology coming out from Demagogue Press, which is also from a mutual friend of ours.
That's right. That's Wandering Paths from Demagogue Press.
Yep. And that's going to be a neat one because it's going to be an anthology that you can read and play a game while you're doing it.
Yeah, so. That actually, I have a picture of that book up in the corner because we had Francis on the show, Francis Lupa on the show. I'm actually trying to think of where we are in the calendar right now. Maybe that show just happened. But yes, Francis Lupa talked about Winding Paths on Exercise Your Rights at some point. So tell me a little bit about your story in that one, because I actually haven't gotten to read that.
That one was based off of a remark that my friends and I would always have whenever we gamed, because we would play a six-sided dice game called Champions, which is basically superheroes, and I would always roll the absolute worst luck. And they called it Danny Dice. So my story in there is called Jamie Dice, and it's about a guy who gets a hold of not a cursed dice, but a special one, and it has an effect on his life.
Oh wow! Oh, I cannot wait to read that. Like you said, the whole collection is pretty interesting. Like she's put so much. I think it's going to be like a choose your own for the reader. They're reading through and they can choose where they're going. So that'll be super cool.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure of the mechanics just yet. She released a little teaser video on Instagram. I want to say it was a week or 2 ago.
Oh, I have to go look for that.
Kind of explained it, but I haven't seen how the rules work just yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that should be releasing soon, so yeah, I guess we're all going to get to find out.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, what else have you got coming up, and where can we find you?
Right now, I don't have a whole lot being released, so I'm just kind of in the creation wave of it, where I'll create and then I'll send it off into the world and create and send it off into the world, because I'm a short story writer. I don't do novels very often, so
yeah,
I am trying to put the finishing touches on Cabin 187, which is another collection of short stories. And the trick on this one is it will have a single story that encompasses all of them and ties them together.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's very cool.
And then I also need to put the finishing touches on an actual novel that I wrote that started my writing journey, called Killer Punchlines, which is about a stand-up comedian who is also a serial killer.
Ah. So what does he take? Trophies? A lot of times serial killers will take trophies. I'm trying to figure out what he would take.
I never gave him that quirk. I probably, since it's still in the birthing process, I should probably give him that quirk.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start thinking way too much about that. We'll be sitting here for like 3 hours as I'm like, Maybe their laugh, so their voice box. I don't
Or their
know.
funny bones.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, the funny bones. That would be cool. So, all right. Well, we look forward to that. You are just kicking butt as a writer. You are just all over the place with your stuff, and that father figure. I'm very excited to read this as a follow up to Roadkill King. Not as a follow up, but as your next book.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's
So,
available now on Amazon.
link below in the description. Do you have a message of Halloween goodness for our viewers today?
Just stay scary, stay scared. Let your freak flag fly. Because
I
you've got
like
plenty
that.
of company.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing Halloween with me. It's like my favorite holiday of the whole year, and you're one of my favorite people. So I can't
Thank you.
imagine
You're one of
a
mine
better way
too.
to spend it. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the Halloween wishes, and I will see you next week on Exercise Your Rights.
Bye.